for everyone, the law, and everyone has put this event together. I've been asked to deliver this keynote. I don't know how it will go, because what I'm about to discuss with you is how technology is going to affect what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. Not entirely sure how it will go, but one thing for sure is that it's going to be completely transforming the way we do things, as long as we're able to continue to do them. So, with that in mind, I'm gonna go through some of the slides that I presented, well, not to present to you today, and the title is The Legal Services Industry in the Homo Technologicus Era. And for those who wonder, Homo Technologicus Era, we're Homo sapiens as humans. When technology becomes integrated and infused with humans, this is the new term used, Homo Technologicus Era. So between human and artificial intelligence, in that sense. I will start by setting the stage for what will come. And I promise you, it's probably different from what you've heard in relation to AI so far. Secondly, I'll go through some of the applications and implications of using artificial intelligence for the legal services industry. And the twist is that it's not going to be limited at all, or by any means, to arbitration. I don't know, when I take the stage, people would expect me to talk about arbitration. Not at all. It's about the legal services industry. And then, perhaps we can take a leap of faith and see whether we can predict what the future will hold for all of us. So, the first thing, few words that I want you to remember: integration, transformation, Cambrian explosion, turbo proliferation, and the law of accelerating returns. I'm going to go through those as we speak, but I just want to shed light that these keywords are actually defining what we're experiencing today and what we are going to experience in the coming years in terms of the legal practice. So let's start with a few misconceptions that we have as lawyers regarding technology. One, time lag. We have a view that this is not going to happen while we're practicing. Perhaps our children, perhaps our grandchildren, but we are safe. We're not. So we have this misconception that it takes time. Technology increases at an accelerated rate exponentially. What we've seen, and let me just test your memories. One of the large language modules, ChatGPT, which is known to many, and it's just a label. By the way, ChatGPT is almost a relic of the past. It's not really the apex of AI at all. Do you know when it came out the first time? The first time we've ever heard about ChatGPT? November 2022. So less than 2 years. In those 2 years, we've moved away from this. There's been different versions, now 4.0 and others. The second thing, linear development. We tend to think of technology the same way we think of other things, that the development is linear. It's not. It's non-linear, valuable, multifaceted, and in many directions at an exponential rate. The human touch. This is what I call, because wherever you go, people will want the human touch. Always, they will crave for this human touch. This is not necessarily so. We will not have time, but I can show you that at least there is a study by Oracle in 2020 that shows that no less than 70% of people in the workplace prefer to talk to robots and artificial intelligence than humans. I do not subscribe to that, but that I find shocking and appalling, that humans prefer to talk to non-humans, in fact, synthetic life, compared to speaking to humans. But this is telling the fact that people are not missing the human touch, let alone that the younger generation, at least I know that from my son, when they play together, they're not playing and interacting as humans. They're playing online together. So effectively, this human touch that we all lived in and we all like is not necessarily something that the younger generations actually miss or find attractive, unfortunately. Good intentions and harsh realities. Everything over history that finds its way or breaks through into the world, they tell you it's for the public good. And the harsh reality is that it puts people out of jobs, out of business, in a way, ultimately. So you may have indeed good intentions, but one has to charter a path to see whether these good intentions will actually materialize in a direction that serves humanity and the industry at large. So, the key features, from misconceptions to the key features. One, there is a transformative effect. Remember, integration and transformation. So technology is no longer being used as just a tool. It's actually moving to be integrated to effectively taking over and doing tasks that were previously assigned to humans. So this is where the AI aspect, and I think many people get confused between artificial intelligence and information and communication technologies. Think of it this way: dummy versus a type of intelligence that tries to mimic human intelligence in a way, which, if I dilute it and reduce it to something very simple, the one common theme among scientists who study human intelligence and artificial intelligence is basically recognition of patterns. The human mind works through recognizing patterns. And this is why they are trying to replicate the experience synthetically through artificial intelligence. But the newcomer is synthetic life, which is basically and effectively the idea of making physical appearance of synthetic life rather than just appearing virtually as an artificial intelligence. I don't know how many of you know about the recent example that happened when they've asked one of those chatbots, AI, top-notch, to effectively recognize, you know, when you log online and they tell you mark the traffic lights or mark the stairs or whatever, you know, they do this to make sure you're not a robot. You're not a robot, right? Now, all these large language modules, they are effectively more or less blind. They don't see. So they've asked this, and I will nameless, but I will tell you later on in private, to actually sign in as a non-robot. You know what that AI did? It immediately went online, instructed people who wants to get paid. You can get paid dollars, whatever. So they said, we're going to pay you $100 if you mark the traffic lights, you're not a robot. So they effectively went online, instructed a human to do this. And the human said, but you are not a human. And the answer from the AI said, effectively, I am just visually impaired. It did not say I'm not a human. It did not say I'm a robot, but described a situation which is true. And that was an eye-opening experience that they are effectively now evading the system, finding ways to resolve situations that may not be something they're able to do normally because of their visual impairment. So going back to the 5 points I mentioned, the Cambrian Explosion. People who are familiar with this would know that the Cambrian Explosion actually defines the era where we had spring of life as we know it in the universe. Real life coming into existence from bacteria, fungus, single-celled organisms up to Homo sapiens. So the Cambrian Explosion that's happening synthetically now, both at the level of AI and biotechnology. So the idea is using even artificial intelligence to create synthetic life. So everything that you see effectively natural is being replicated synthetically. In addition to that, as we mentioned, because of the non-linear situation of development of technology, there is a turbo proliferation of this. Now, the versions of artificial intelligence that you see, every 2 months and even less, you find something completely different, which is integrated in everything that we do in human life. Starting from normal things as buying stuff online, up to doing tasks that were previously assigned and dedicated to humans. And this brings me to the last one. There's someone called Ray Kurzweil. in 1999, he published a book called The Age of Spiritual Machines, where he introduced something called the law of accelerated returns, which is pretty much that technology, once it rolls out, is actually proliferating at an exponential rate, and today at a rate that is unpredictable and unknown by humans. So you can effectively leave a machine online overnight, and you wake up next day, and they have achieved a new level that previously no one could have predicted. And this law of accelerated returns is something that we as humans are unable to predict how machines and machine learning is going to effectively progress in the coming days. Now, how does that affect us in the legal services industry? Much can be said. And I don't want to take that to an abstract level. So I've chosen few things. One, I'll give you a couple of statistics to tell you where we stand today. Then I'll share with you insight how that is transforming the legal services industry. And then I'll take that to tell you what services are available out there as we speak today. We're not using them as the firm yet, as a matter of principle, some in part. But in reality, you have to appreciate that this effectively is taking the game to a wholly different level. So in terms of a statistic by Goldman Sachs, is that at least 1/4 of the current work tasks will be automated. And by the way, there's been recently statistics by businesses across the globe, survey actually, asking businesses whether they're in for automation or not. More than 95% of the businesses said yes, we would like to automate the business. One, we don't want to deal with the humans and the drama, work-life balance. You don't need to feed them. You don't need effectively to bear with people having different moods on the day. It's easier to deal with machines. Imagine, these are business perspectives. But what's interesting about the Goldman Sachs survey is that at least in relation to law and the legal services industry, they are the most vulnerable and exposed to actually automation. 44% of what we do as predicted today. Again, remember, in accordance with the nonlinear progression and the law of accelerated return, the prediction today could effectively mean that it could be 88% next year. The same thing at Princeton University and University of Pennsylvania says that the legal profession are the most exposed to AI automation. And this brings me to the areas where the automation is currently taking place. I don't need to predict this. This is actually happening. Document review, automating contract drafting and analysis. And the high level where AI is being used actually is not just reviewing documents, but not only summarizing them, we have these on our laptops, but effectively analyzing risk, obligations, rights, compliance rate in relation to contracts. So effectively, some of those softwares tell you, you have that contractual provision in your contract, be aware that the compliance rate with that obligation internationally is 50%, 40%. You want to draft it in a manner that could make it 80% compliant, here are your choices. Imagine, I've had a situation speaking to an M&A colleague who's doing a transaction for the first time, literally. And he went on one of those sources. He actually paid $44. He mentioned this to me. And he actually asked them, what are the questions that I should ask in the meeting regarding this type of transaction? And they came up with a list of 16 questions. And he said, I vetted those with a very senior M&A counsel in a jurisdiction. And he told them, this is precisely what a very seasoned M&A lawyer would ask. Now, 6 months ago, you ask that question, it will come with a very primitive list that everyone would laugh at. Today, this LLM, the large language module, has given him an answer that now literally compressed, zipped the experience of an MMA lawyer over years and brought on board someone who can ask those questions and give the appearance of someone who's very seasoned and experienced. automating legal research, searching through vast materials, online and offline. Some of those even AI are able to circumvent encrypted databases and give you the answer. So you don't need to subscribe to databases because they are able to avoid that and give you the answers even in protected databases that are subject to subscription. It is transforming everything. Predictive analysis. Now, predictive justice is a big thing about predicting. That's effectively in the US and many countries. In fact, we're having a spillover effect in arbitration. You'd know X as an arbitrator or X as a judge. Depending on the availability of awards or judgments online, the AI is able to predict the likely outcome of that person in light of the thought process expressed in the judgments or the award, which gives an edge strategically when appearing before them, be it a judge or the decision maker, that that person is likely to proceed in that direction, so you're able to tailor your advocacy, your submissions in that manner. Client communication and risk assessment and management. I can tell you some firms actually, not the very large ones, but others have automated the communications. AI-powered 24/7 chatbots to attend to client queries, using AI algorithms to effectively advise clients if you're in different time zones. And the shocking feedback is that clients are happy with that. The clients are happy. I was shocked to see some of those reviews. They say, it's fine, we're happy to deal with a human, but effectively, when the human is not around, that chatbot is able to give us the immediate attention we need. And then using this, of course, to optimize decision-making and settlements and negotiations, in addition, of course, to dispute resolution, which I promised you I'm not going to dwell on very much. Now, this is all the general thing. Let's give you examples of some of those available out there. A quick, brief survey, I've spotted no less than 200 companies that are using AI that can help the legal industry in a way. I'm sorry, I should say, whether help or put us out of business, that's something controversial. But document review, Kira Systems and Luminance. I personally, in a huge case, because you needed people to go through literally hundreds of thousands of documents, subscribed, and we've used Luminance. And my team's feedback was that it was very good in terms of review, in terms of document production, and looking at this. It is very costly. I had to intervene and negotiate the price with them specifically, and they agreed, provided that I give them a testimonial. So I did that. But ultimately, the point is, these are available softwares. And when we used it, it was not as AI-powered as it is today. Flagging risks, identifying key clauses and documents. Now, of course, the overarching answer and the caveat is they will tell you we will always need a human to cross-check and verify. And that's why they tell you you will always need a human because the human can supervise what the machine will do. Understood. And my very simple argument, how in due course will a human be able to supervise a task that the human in time will not have done themselves? We can supervise now because we have done it manually. We know how it is done. But if you bring that on board, no junior associate or in time, a senior associate who has not done that task personally will be able to supervise something that they have no knowledge how it is done. So think about this. The other thing is natural language processing tools. Example, ROS and CaseNet. They allow lawyers to perform legal research by asking questions in plain language. You don't need to be a lawyer, eloquent, to ask questions in a proper manner. Layman terms can be used. Example of that I didn't feature here, for example, Alibaba. Jack Ma, one of the co-founders of Alibaba. Alibaba now has an AI-powered chatbot offering legal services to the community of Alibaba. A fully fledged legal services. You don't need a lawyer. You just need to them and they will advise you on the transaction. It's fully automated and online. Predictive analytics, as I mentioned, Lex Machina and premonition are examples of what is available out there in case of predicting cases, analyzing them, and effectively providing historical data. Now, the more and more, we know that the most valuable commodity today is information, data. The more and more available online in relation to judgments, awards, opinions that they can survey in terms of the AI-powered tools, the more and better they will become because they will be able to process these data quickly. Contract generation and automation. It's not just review and distilling and summarizing. It's effectively drafting contracts. There's been a competition done between an AI and a mid-level associate in drafting contracts. So they put them in a contest. One, the AI was able to draft the contract in less than 1/100 time what the human required. Two, the level of sophistication, detail that the AI has shown is at the partner level compared to the senior associate. Three, the AI was able to identify the gaps that the senior associate, the mid-level sort of associate, has missed when drafting the contract. And these were skilled humans. It is scary, but it is a reality. We mentioned virtual legal assistants. Now, it is very unfortunate that there are certain tasks and certain service providers that are destined to disappear. In our world, one, translators and interpreters. Human translation and interpretation is unfortunately destined to disappear because what's happening is, I've had a hearing once where they've used translation. It was not best. I thought the human was much better. Then I had another hearing a couple of months ago. It was flawless. The interpretation, the translation automated was flawless by an AI. Two, transcription. Transcription now, again, is one of the areas where you have the transcribers and court reporters that we all need, either in litigation or arbitration at the international level. Again, is an area where there is a strong automation. Thirdly, administrative tasks. AI virtual assistants are able to automate tasks. I, for one, probably will not be able to work with an AI because I'm very demanding, so I still need a human. So, Susie, you don't need to worry about that. But, seriously, it is a big problem. Litigation analytics, as we mentioned, but these are examples, Ravel Law and Castle Q. Now, these, again, are just a couple out there, including now, at the level of the US, jury trials. They are being used effectively. Previously, as you know, there was the process of voir dire, where you actually look at the juror and you have the ability to strike few of them by the counsel without, mentioning the reason. Now, they survey their social media, everything about that juror, gives you a feedback, what is likely to be the view of that juror, to help you to challenge that juror and say you don't want them on board or not. So this is, again, something that's happening. Intelligent contract risk assessment, iGen Technologies and Seal Software, they are effectively providing those services. And many of those companies actually have testimonials and reviews from humans who have used them and businesses. Regulatory compliance and risk management. This is very interesting because it effectively, one of the big things, if you are in a country where the laws change quickly and people are not able to follow that because necessarily not everything is published, this software, Cognitive and Raven, effectively allows you to monitor compliance and regulatory changes in that manner. And effectively, that reduces the risk of non-compliance or not being up to date about the legislative reforms that have taken place. And then you have alternative legal service providers. Now, I say that, remember the harsh realities and good intentions? See the term being used, alternative legal service providers. Not a tool, not supporting, alternative. Quizlex, Factor, Legalese, and Moray are examples of that, where they are using AI to offer low-cost legal services. Many people in parts of the world no longer, firms in not, or at least part of the world, don't do due diligence anymore. You go to companies that go to due diligence. This is one segment. Imagine this as a full scale of the legal services in that sense. So they tell you, and they automate that, we're able to provide alternative legal services at a fraction of the cost, at a much reduced time. For clients, the cost impact is extremely important. And then AI-assisted case management and billing. So this is more on the admin and financial side, how to track the progress of a case, deadline, billing hours. Clio and Practice Panther are examples of that available software. Now, online dispute resolution, perhaps for another event, but this is an area where a lot is changing. I will only mention 2 examples. The SCIA, the traditional ones, forget the ODR providers that are available out there. So the Shenzhen Court of International Arbitration, the AAA, and Shenzhen, you know, in China, institutions could be managing somewhere between 20,000 to 40,000 cases a year. They don't have a team. The Shenzhen may have about a team of 6 lawyers as counsel. So they effectively use AI to assist with arbitrator selection, vetting conflicts, scrutinizing, providing templates, orders, and awards to the arbitrators. So effectively, you're using AI to generate pretty much of what's being done today. The last installment and the example, before I conclude, because I know that there is, of course, a lot during the day, Harvey. I know many people in the room would know Harvey. Some international firms, like Allen and Overy and others who've subscribed to that. Other international firms have not used it. But it is, to a large extent, described by many as a one-stop shop. So it serves as an advanced legal assistant to improve efficiency and decision-making in legal tasks. So you actually go to Harvey, you install it, you use it, and it learns as integrated in your environment. So you actually use Harvey in your environment, it learns how you do things, and helps you develop your practice in that sense. Across the board, all the others, the 11 segments we've mentioned that I've chosen, can be done by Harvey in that sense. The Singapore courts have actually agreed to use Harvey, and they are using it in relation to litigation and court review processes. Now, this takes me to the implications. Time and cost, which is the 2 elements regarding resource optimization that are relevant for everyone. Significantly, AI reduces time and cost. Accuracy is a question mark now, but we tend to think of technology from what we see today, but as I told you, they learn, they actually up their game much faster than we can predict. Accountability and bias. One of the things I tell you, still these LLMs need programming. Some of the new versions do not require programming because they are able to replicate the patterns and learn as they go on. I've given you the example of the visually impaired chatbot who said, you know, I can still do the traffic lights example. But there is elements how to deal with the bias and accountability issues. Confidentiality and data protections are presently one of the areas where we have issues, because when you actually send the documents, there could be issues of confidentiality and potential breach. And that's why these companies are now updating their terms of engagement to exclude any liability because of that, because there has been incidents in that sense. That brings me to the last part, the implications, the human factor. Where do we stand in all that? And the metasthethiophobia, which is basically fear of change. We lawyers, everyone, and many humans like not to change. We would like to continue to do things the way we do them because we're good at doing them, or at least comfortable with the way of doing them. I'm afraid this is no longer a possibility. We will have to adapt in that manner. And I'll leave you with 3 concluding remarks. Effectively, they're telling you, and all those companies, we're here to help, to support the humans. But remember, that's effectively what it's called. When people graduate, they need a placement in firms, right? You want to work, you get a placement. Today with AI, there is a displacement because effectively you are going to be displaced. They're telling you, you're not out of business, we're here to support, but at least a percentage of automation is needed, which means that a reduction in the type of tasks humans are doing will be supported by technology. But what's coming is actually replacement, not just displacement, which is a big question mark. The second one, which I say, I don't know how it will go, it's a prediction that I gave at a keynote event in Hong Kong. I said the future is not going to be for law firms. There will be legal units in companies. The model of a self-standing law firm, and we have a law firm, and I would like that to continue, and I hope, and I will fight for that to continue on all levels. But when I gave that speech, it was a prediction. I had no knowledge that this is actually happening. A general counsel of one of the leading companies in the world, which shall remain nameless, but it's a huge company, said, who told you that there are units? I told him, no one told me. He said, I have in my team now, the legal team, lawyers, 80% reduction in humans, and I'm using AI, including within my legal team, I have 6 engineers that are helping us to tailor the AI to train that, because we are now managing things internally and relying less and less on external counsel. So the reality is that there is this movement. The point as well is that human intelligence, which we all value and hopefully will continue, people are trying to replicate that, of course, through artificial intelligence, through pattern recognition. But I think the future as well will hold an opportunity for hybrid intelligence. People have already went into clinical trials. Elon Musk's company, Neuralink, has already went into clinical trials and got approvals to implant chips in human minds. So imagine humans with heightened capabilities. And those who follow Egyptian movies, we've had a movie years ago, prediction, something called the Limbi 8 Giga, where you downloaded a chip into the head of a very, very normal person who became a very prominent lawyer because he was able to recite laws, able to actually plead cases because of that memory chip. It's a comedy movie. But interestingly, these chips are currently being implanted. Now, they tell you, and that's interesting, for medical purposes, not commercial use. So people who are blind, people who are unable to walk, people who have certain disabilities will be able to do everything. And who are we to tell them not to do that? They have a right to do that, absolutely. But again, remember the harsh realities. In the 1980s and 70s, everyone was saying the internet was for military purposes and academic purposes. It will never be commercialized. The internet now is commercialized. And so will be those chips. The last slide, and I apologize if I've taken your time, I could not think of better words to say than what is stated in a book by Mustafa Sulaiman called The Coming Wave, where he said, for most history, the challenge of technology lie in creating and unleashing its power. That has now flipped. The challenge of technology today is about containing its unleashed power and ensuring that it continues to serve us and our planet. And that is indeed the crisis mode we're in. With this, I will leave you, and I thank you very much for listening. Thank you.